What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news, the eligible presidents, all with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor, man.
Good old humor, man.
Old humor, yeah.
Good old humor. Why the emphasis on old, Terrence?
Nothing, man. It's just a regular. That's how I say it, lah. Nothing. No. Don't read too much into the innuendo.
That's right. Yo, man, we are in like exciting waters now.
Yeah, it kind of caught me off guard. I think like everyone been talking about it, but to actually see, like yesterday at the nomination center and everything, which we will talk about in a bit, right?
Yeah.
To see everything happen and like supporters being there, people cheering on all the different candidates and all. Then it hit me that we are in an election, And then this morning going about the roads, I see Tharman posters everywhere already. Have you seen the posters?
Not yet. I saw photos of the posters, but I haven't seen the posters yet.
Yeah, so we are officially in the midst of the, what's that word? Hustings. Hustings. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw someone post that. I was like, what the fuck is hustings?
Oh, yeah.
I thought they were done with the presidential election and about to get back to hustling.
Hustling.
But there was a typo. I was like, hey, you want to hustle also? Can you get your spelling correct or not?
Yeah. Well, what is the definition of hustings?
Hustings. No one knows, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's one of those words that you only use because we don't have that many elections, right?
Yeah.
So just understanding. And in politics, it's a meeting at which candidates in an election address potential voters.
Oh, I see.
It's also the campaigning associated with an election, the hustings.
Oh, so that was why yesterday the hustings started, because we are recording on 23rd August, Wednesday, a day after the campaign period officially started.
Yes.
Because the candidates were confirmed as candidates. And then the campaigning started.
Yeah, but before we jump
into that,
what do we always tell people to do?
That if you have listened to our podcast, if you're new to our podcast, to our YouTube channel, thankfully the past few weeks have been great for the podcast. Please just hit that subscribe button or follow button because it helps us build the channel and it also makes sure that you see our content. Yeah.
And if you want to work with us, just reach out to us, contact@ministryofunny.com.
Yeah.
That's how you can reach us and find ways that you can support this podcast as well.
Yeah, brands, talent, hosts, ideas, whatever. Just hit us up over there.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So
that's the most synchronized cool.
Yeah, we did not coordinate that.
Yeah.
So to go back to what you were saying, what we were saying just now is that August 22nd, Tuesday was the day the three candidates were confirmed as candidates. We've been lucky enough to get two of them on our podcast, still trying for the third.
Yes.
The hustings began. The hustings began. So just now you mentioned that it would finally hit you yesterday. Did you go down to the nomination day area at People's Association?
That's where I was like, oh shit, I wish I had been there.
Me too.
Yeah, just to get a feel of what people on the ground are saying and all that.
Yeah, because you see the photos, there was a shit ton of people. Not sure like how many were for which candidate.
It's pretty clear if you listen to the audio, though, the speeches and all.
Yeah, true. So I guess from the pictures, and Tharman supporters were all wearing what color is that? Purple.
Purple. It looks like purple.
Look like burgundy. 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 So it seems very interesting, but these next few days are going to be full of news,
Yeah.
I think yesterday they also unveiled their campaign symbols.
Yes, that's right.
Right. We can talk about that. But where is your head at right now, Terrence?
So I guess, in some sense, I wasn't really immediately prepared for the excitement to begin. And there's just a deluge of videos from all the candidates about what they're going to do or what they'll be doing. It's just a lot to take in. And I suddenly, it's quite shocking that there's already the first day already and there's like so much I wouldn't say entertainment right? But I already got like a lot of scandalous stuff coming up right? Yeah. How about you?
I wouldn't say yesterday was the turning point. I think the moment we got Ng Kok Song on our podcast, it's this is we can feel it. There's a lot of feelings when the election is happening, you keep thinking, I have one vote. Am I going to make a difference?
Yeah.
It's so far-fetched and it feels like you're just a cog in a machine. But when we got Ng Kok Song on our podcast, it felt we are kind of like closer to it happening lah. And that's when since then it's just been slowly building up lah.
Yeah.
So it's been a whirlwind since then lah.
So are you already decided on who you're voting for and everything? Because at the end of the day, you did have a chance to chat to two presidential candidates and all. So where are you at? You don't have to say who you're voting for, but where are you at now?
I think I have an idea of who I'm going to vote for. But still holding with bated breath.
Yeah.
Or holding my bated breath. Or waiting with bated breath.
Waiting
with bated breath.
Yeah.
To see what happens in the next few, all the way till the first lah.
Yeah.
You?
I think I kind of have an idea, but the way things are shaping out, it's like it seems to be an election about based on morality already lah, at this point. So I'm kind of waiting to see if anything else comes up in the next 1-2 weeks lah.
Morality, why?
I mean, it's part of the... Okay, I mean, are we going into it right now? Or do you have like a lot of tabs that you want to go through?
I do have a lot of tabs, but I don't have any chronology or sequence of things.
Okay.
Because I think that probably a lot of people are in the same boat as us.
Yes.
Like, you're trying to stay abreast of the happenings and elections, and sometimes it feels like, what the hell is going on? And it's just... Like, it's tough to just sit down and wrap your heads around it.
Yeah. But okay, but maybe before I go to all that, right? Can you talk a little bit about the last week for us, all right? Talking to Ng Kok Song and talking to Tan Kin Lian on this podcast for, each of them for about 70-80 minutes at a go. You really get an insight into how these people think, right?
Yeah.
What has this past week felt like for you? What has it meant to you?
I mean, it's been super meaningful because... of course, personally, just getting to interface with them and ask questions that I want to ask, which I feel are not being asked, was great.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, they're getting a lot of listens and a lot of views on YouTube, and people are commenting.
Yeah.
And I feel like, okay lah, like at least people are finding some value in listening to these conversations. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we are bringing something different from all the media outlets out there or other podcasts lah. And it feels like, okay, there's some value that we created lah.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's been quite fun.
Yeah, I felt like we've fulfilled our civic duty, right? Rallies not encouraged, as mentioned before. Rallies are not encouraged for this presidential election. So how else are these candidates going out there to reach people?
Yeah.
And we're not, we're not the biggest podcast or the biggest YouTube channel around and all. But I think the impact of our podcast has been outsized, just based on the number of people who have watched it on YouTube or listened and commented and all. So I feel, we, sort of like bringing balance back to the force a little bit.
A lot more balance.
The authorities say, don't encourage you to have rallies. Okay, fine. Then we'll use social media and we'll do our best to, allow the candidates to have space to talk.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't just let them, talk about what their favorite nasi lemak stall is or what,
In fact, we never spend any time on like, what got you into politics?
In fact, and then for Ng Kok Song, I mean, obviously the big elephant in the room for a lot of people is his relationship with his fiancée. We didn't even touch it at all because
we didn't.
I felt like it wasn't even part of what we wanted to ask and all, So I'm very glad that we had the chance to do that and to put them here and to sort of at least ask one or two follow-up questions to each of the different things they've been saying, right? So I felt like that's our civic duty for this election that we've done. Obviously, we've only done 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
I think we were trying to reach out to George Go.
Still to George Go at some point, but even to Tharman, we're still reaching out.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're listening to this and you are in some way like have a like the main reason why I would love to have Tharman on his podcast is because he, amongst the candidates, have done the most closed door sessions.
Is that wait, before I get Puffmat? How do you know that for sure?
Okay. No, it seems.
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
Because I've seen a lot of like say influencers or celebrities post pictures about going to these events with Tharman and having these closed door dialogues, and I appreciate the ones who come out and maybe share their thoughts on what was discovered.
Yeah.
But if you come out of that and you just post a picture with Tharman with like a little caption saying, time for me to become president or some shit like that, then I'm like, hey. Why? And I feel that is almost doing a disservice to his campaign because his campaign message is respect for all. But then it's like, then all this small. Of course, maybe he's not the one who's done the most closed door sessions. But I really hope that I mean, I still feel like I'm on the outside.
So you're just jealous you're not in the influencer circle that gets invited to events.
I mean,
that
we
takes
got
TikToks
invited
with-
to some events, but not like the close, like the intimate one. I wouldn't say it's jealous. I really feel if you're getting the opportunity there,
Yeah.
in some way you come and like maybe share what was discussed, because then it feels again like what the issue is, right? The transparency of these conversations and all.
But you can't say he hasn't. He's been on like other podcasts also.
One other.
One or two other. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I mean, I think the Political Prude.
Political Prude.
with Joel.
Yeah,
which
so
was-
kudos to Joel,
kudos to
for
Joel,
getting
yeah.
that.
But yeah, I mean, I think the interesting things about our talks with Ng Kok Song and Tan Kin Lian is that, it was really, I think we tried to press, into like some hard-hitting issues that really are about issues that we want to understand about what the president's role are and all that, right?
But how much did that influence your thought on where you're at now? Because not everyone has a chance to have this podcast.
Correct.
Like
correct.
we create it, hopefully we share it unedited so that you can almost be there with us.
Yeah.
But what role has that played in your own perceptions, Terence?
Well, I think on the surface, I'm very glad that Tan Kin Lian and Ng Kok Song both have. They were very quick to agree to come onto the podcast, which I think is, it's good lah, right? Like you're saying about being more inclusive, or at least like wanting to get your word out there. Obviously, being on a podcast also, they see it as a platform to reach people.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I always say, coming on a podcast is no guarantee. We don't give pre-approved questions on it and things like that. So there's no guarantee for them that they will come out looking good, right? So it's always a risk, right? But that's what I think, if you want to be a president of people is about that, right? That you hear different opinions and you explain your view and you try to, whether it's follow-up questions or what, to really try to hammer down like what exactly your view is about things. And I'm very glad that I had the opportunity to do that with them. And your question was whether it affected how I'm going to vote and all that. 100% for sure, I can't admit that there definitely will be some being, in the same room as a person and understanding what goes on behind their brain kind of gives you an insight into what their decision process will be like when it comes to bigger decisions, right? So yeah, it's definitely in the back of my mind. Obviously, I can't say who I'm voting for now because my vote is secret and all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely affected somewhat.
Yeah.
So how about you?
I mean, same for me, Same for me. Just that face-to-face interaction. There's things that you can't measure, the body language, the vibe, and all that.
Yeah.
But then now I'm also thinking, since we recorded with Tan Kin Lian on Sunday, and since then already, there's been a bunch of things that have hit the news,
Correct. Yeah.
You mentioned there was that controversy around his comments about pretty girls.
Yeah.
And then even other things. So like the things that seem to have stood out from the past few days is there's the unveiling at the People's Association HQ. There's been some videos showing that when Ng Kok Song was giving his speech, there was booing.
Yeah.
There were the unveiling of their what would you call mascots? Not mascots, right?
Slogans. I mean, no, the what do you call it?
Icons.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? Icon.
I suppose so. Yeah.
So I mean, like what has stood out for you? Their symbols.
Symbols. Yes.
Yeah. What has stood out for you as something that you feel you need to talk about?
I mean, the pretty girl debate, at least the controversy, has sort of spilled into the regulatory, social activism arena, right? Regulatory because people are asking the PEC, the Presidential Election Council, how come his social media presence and posts weren't considered as part of the good character that a president is required to have, or eligible candidate is required to have. So people are questioning that. On the social activism front, I think Aware, the women's rights organization, has come out and said that, I sort of implied that is this the kind of what kind of signal are we sending when we say that this person is eligible? Someone who objectifies women by just calling them pretty girls, constantly, not once, not twice, many times.
Yeah, many
times. And in fact, now is even doubling down on it, saying that, hey, maybe those who are angry about it is because you're not pretty.
He literally said that.
He literally said that, yeah.
He actually said that.
Yeah,
like,
so
dude, come on, man.
That and then that has, Tan Kin Lian in quite Trumpian fashion, right, has sort of said that this is a coordinated attack, right, on his character, blaming malicious characters behind it and a coordinated mainstream media campaign to discredit him because of the timing of the post. So, I mean, it's not just about him being a creepy, having some creepy social media posts, but is brought up wider questions.
Like, what is a creep? Like, is it wrong?
Yeah. Is it
like,
wrong?
even his daughter came out and said that there's nothing wrong, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned Trump, right? Like that is something that almost wouldn't say worries me, but it's also been a eye-opening thing, because since we uploaded on YouTube and Reddit, the comments, let's say for Ng Kok Song, which was a bit more, how you say, a diplomatic kind of answers he gave, the comments were not as polarizing. The one we did with Tan Kin Lian, which, like a lot of things he does, is more polarizing.
Yes,
but
very.
there's a lot of support just based on comments, anecdotally, right? For even some things that on our podcast where he said, which I personally disagree with, and I thought generally people would disagree with.
Yeah.
And then, like, the photos yesterday, Taman had a lot of supporters. Tan Kin Lian also had a lot of supporters.
Yeah.
So then, the way he's conducted himself, being accused with like pretty girl comments and all that, it feels like the playbook of Trump, no? And that is what I find like fucking scary, because he's reaching the level where he can do no wrong.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like, oh, are people going to vote for him just because they are that pissed off? Which is the whole of Trump's campaign,
Yeah.
In the run-up, I remember whatever he said, he could do no wrong, and it was drain the swamp, and people protest voted for him. Of course, a lot of people resonated with him, but it feels like, like whoever's writing off someone like Tan Kin Lian, I don't think he's easily written off.
Yeah. And the other aspect of when I say Trumpian is how he discrediting the mainstream media. Like his interview right after the nomination speech and everything, he really went all in on the mainstream media. He literally was talking to a reporter there saying, you should go and talk to your editor. You all are very unfair to me. Things like that. And really singling out the mainstream media for the negative coverage of this pretty girl thing.
Yeah.
Which is, in 2016, remember there was all those things about Trump saying, he'll grab women by the pussy, right? A very vulgar term that he used. And then he just said his locker room talk, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of got swept underneath the carpet, and then he still got, became president and everything, right?
And then it was Crooked Hillary, the whole time.
Nicknames, yeah.
And then like shitting on the left, which became like a very powerful defense, because anytime there's any slander or any criticism of him, he will bring that out.
Yeah.
And why I think it's worrying is not because of Tan Kin Lian particularly, because I was thinking, oh shit, is that almost like the sign of every mature democracy? You see it in the US, you see it in other countries where you get very like extreme leaders being voted into power.
Yeah.
Is Singapore reaching that point?
Yeah.
And it almost feels like, oh, is this something we need to be careful of? Because even last night I was watching the coverage on the news, and they brought on the commentator, I think is the associate professor Eugene Tan. And the way he was talking about things, it felt like, of course they were talking about how Tan Kin Lian, this is going to hurt his campaign and stuff like that. But when they started talking about the symbols, right? Taman's symbol of the pineapple is the, I would say, the anomaly, Everyone had some message behind it.
Yeah. And
Taman has the pineapple, right? But generally the comments, and I'm singling out just that interview because I don't know how mainstream media painted it, but it felt like, it's meant to be a very a symbol that has no messages. It is just something to it was painted very positively. I was thinking, if let's say Tan Kin Lian symbol was a pineapple, right?
Yeah.
Walao, it'll be non-stop like mockery, almost.
So you're saying the mainstream media is the culprit?
No, not mainstream media particularly, but just that one instance. Then I was like, oh shit, are we going down that path? Because it's literally what we saw with Trump, right?
Yeah.
And then you read our comments, like a lot of people for even when on our podcast, Tan Kin Lian said his views on LGBTQ rights and all, which sounds like it's totally not what I myself agree with.
Yeah.
And it sounds so conservative that I thought it would be political suicide, but a lot of supporters are backing him.
Yeah. So I'm actually also quite surprised by how much momentum Tan Kin Lian seems to be having, right? And then I think the important thing to know is that whatever you and your friends think, just always remind yourself that you might be the minority.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I also think like, oh, wow, everyone I talk to around me says they're going to vote for Tharman and all that. But then
our podcast is a minority of Singapore.
Yes,
people
yes.
listening, right?
Yeah, but when you scroll through the comments or you on Reddit and you read what people are saying and all that, you'll be quite surprised sometimes at how people are thinking.
And I think we saw that with Trump. We saw that with Brexit.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? Like people were always writing it off. It'll never happen. It'll never happen.
And caught off guard, right?
Caught off guard. And I mean, why I think it's sad is because now, like what you said, like the elections are no longer about the policies or like what they want to do for Singapore.
But not that the president needs to. It is really about policy making.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I take that back. Not policies, but just, like certain things that they have mentioned before, how they plan to unify Singapore.
Yeah.
What is the message they want to send out? It's still there. But if you look at the news, everything is like,
pretty girls, Kok Song's fiance.
That is like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. So touching on that aspect of talking about election of morality, right? What are you feeling on the ground about what people think about Kok Song and his chances and all?
I mean, I've heard that like him and his relationship with that big age gap is like a immediate like just no for some people.
Yeah.
And I cannot understand why.
Yeah. Anecdotally, for me also, like almost everyone I talk to is like they can't deal with that age gap, the relationship now.
Like older generation, I can sort of like let that pass, but even people from our generation,
yeah.
And that's what I feel like. Oh shit! Like really, is it that big a deal? And you can't tell people that it's not a big deal. Don't care if they feel it, they feel it.
Yeah, and they feel it. They don't feel it in a logical way. They feel it in their bones.
And they can admit, and they can even they're aware of that, right?
Yeah.
There's just something not right.
And I say, no matter how smart or successful he is, just the idea that his fiance or he's getting married to someone that much younger, and then after all these funky calculations of like, imagine yourself, Terence. You go and talk to some primary 4 girl, and then after that you talk to her about investing. Then after that you all get together. How do you feel about that? Then you're like, oh god, yeah, it's damn wrong when you think about it that way, right? But obviously, again, they met when she was 40, right? So it's not like she wasn't groomed or anything. Yeah, but it's just, I don't know, man. Maybe our society really is that conservative, and we still can't get over some of these things. But I've been in a situation where I've seen family members and all who older, and then they got widowed, and then they married much younger wife, right? And it has caused rifts, I would say, in the family as well when they do that for various reasons. Now I guess you're seeing it at large, right? You're sort of this is like a referendum on whether Singapore can accept this kind of thing, right?
Then it makes you think like, for all we talk about, we are progressive society, no. We're not.
Because everything on paper in Kok Song has his track record, everything is like this is the A student, right, for presidential election. But it's just that one thing that everyone's like, no, you cannot accept.
I mean, like that, and the fact that is he really, really independent? The unfortunate thing is that George Goh, who didn't make it, was probably the most independent, right? And that it's just pitiful that he didn't qualify. But the thing about Kok Song, so now that's why it feels like there is Tan Kin Lian, who is like one extreme. I don't think his independence is even the biggest thing anymore, right? It is so many other things. But with Kok Song and PAP, oh shit, I said Kok Song and PAP. Oh my god, I was like, Kok Song and Tharman, it feels like they are at the other extreme. As much as Kok Song, he wasn't a politician, he feels like cut from the same cloth. Then it makes you think like, okay, we wanted an elected presidency, which is still better than just an appointed one.
Yeah.
But then now, what are we kind of like? Then it becomes like how you say, it's no longer about what they stand for and all. It's just about these side things.
Yeah. But you say side things. So where are you on that pretty girls debate? Like, is how, I mean, okay, obviously there's certain things that post about, like when he took a bus and he said, oh, I thought it was in Mumbai. Obviously that's can be construed as really insensitive, at least insensitive, maybe even racist and all that, right? But the pretty girls thing, where are you on that?
I mean, I think it's how you say, not a good thing to just post online
Mhm.
and take pictures
take
of
pictures.
people without their consent.
Yeah.
I know there was some debate about, is he actually wrong? Because I mean, I think everyone can or largely there are certain definitions, and I say definitions in air quotes, of what's pretty, what's handsome, and all.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is like, okay, he's free to say whatever he wants. I don't agree with what he's saying, but the biggest thing is, can I imagine him as someone who is routinely meeting leaders of the world, representing Singapore? Then that's how I would evaluate it, lah.
And that's what people thought about Trump at first, right?
Yeah.
It was like, there's no way that he could possibly stand up against like Putin or whatever.
But in the end, he did.
Yeah. And then you see those photos of him actually as the president meeting all these world leaders, and you're like, what the fuck? What reality are we living in? What alternate version of reality are we in? And it happened. Right?
It happened twice.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah. So to bring it back to that political comment, I think it's a ridiculous comment. And the way he responded also is like, come on lah, like this is not just like a gathering with your old friends or anything. You're putting yourself in public lah,
Yeah.
And what about you?
So the question is, the question I had is, if he doesn't use the word pretty girls, right? Because he's a older gentleman, when you say the word pretty girls, it's just like
that creep.
The connotation
kind
of
vibe,
looking at much younger girls. If you just said attractive women, for example, you think it would have been better?
No. I think it'll be slightly less worse.
Yeah.
Because pretty girls, immediately there's that connotation that this is like old creep kind of thing. But the attractive girl thing, it's still, you're just basing it on like
So what's wrong with saying someone's attractive though?
Okay, no. I think it's the way he posted.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting on a bus, sitting next to an attractive girl. Can't show you. He.
So it's the way he posted. So
it's the way.
You're saying that, okay, everyone goes out, you go to a club or you take a bus or whatever. And everyone, maybe you feel that way. Oh, wow, good looking people.
That
but it's just how you say it.
Yeah. Anyone who says, you shouldn't even say someone's attractive, then I'm like, that one I totally disagree. There are people who are attractive, who are fucking attractive. And but the way he posted. So it's the way he posted. What about you?
Because if I go to a gym and then there's a lot of swole people, good looking people there, and you say it, but to a group of friends, I think it's okay, right?
Yeah.
But when you're posting about it on Facebook and all, then it's a very different thing, because then there's no context. It's just literally Tan Kim Lian is your Facebook, and then this is just the one thing that you say. Then the post represents almost, is a bit like becomes part of your resume straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas like if I meet you in person, and then we're talking, then I just happen to bring, I went to the gym, there's a lot of good looking people there.
Yeah,
that sounds much more innocent, right? But if you just see, my name is Terence Chia, a lot of good looking people at the gym today, it sounds creepy, right?
But even in that one-to-one interaction, Terence, can you imagine every day I come to office when I meet you, Terence, just want to take the train, wow, some hot women there.
So it's like, how you say it. You say, there are a lot of attractive people on the train. Okay,
a lot of attractive, but every time I see you, I'm like, Terence, I took the bus, wow, there were some attractive women.
So I think it's also the way that you say pretty girls. Pretty girls. Pretty is such a, it's the kind of things that I say to my son about, like, as in when he sees other kids in the kindergarten, in school and all that. That girl's so pretty, that kind of thing. That's the kind of like kids, you say that kind of stuff to them. But to say that to like other, adult women.
But then you're assigning meaning to the word, right? The word is a word, right? It's correct, pretty, right?
Yeah, correct. It's pretty.
If you tell like your wife, you look really pretty today, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but
you won't be like, hey, Terence, shut the fuck up.
Well, she's my wife, nothing wrong, Yeah. But it's like when you're talking about other people's daughters and mothers.
Even then, if you tell someone, I think your daughter's, she looks really pretty. Of course, in a setting, you don't just talking about business, then suddenly, hey, bro, I tell you, your daughter that pretty.
No, so
anyway,
in the workplace, can you go around saying, hey,
But they want attractive also, I think cannot.
Yeah, exactly. So it's inappropriate for the workplace, and that's where maybe Tan Kim Lian probably needs to, I think someone needs to remind him that you got to imagine like if you are at a workplace and all that, right? Because that's what, if you want to be president, your workplace is basically a public arena, right?
Yeah lah. But that's where I also feel like Aware stepping in and calling to review the criteria. I also feel like this is really not like if you don't like what he's doing, don't vote for him. You know, but if you want to change the process, which already a lot of people are saying is too like
subjective.
It's too, there's so many things. I mean, why can't it be that anybody who wants to stand, you meet some basic criteria, you stand, and if people don't want you then they don't vote for you lah.
Yeah. So that I think that's the yellow but in that whole thing lah, right? Where I was saying that how can this guy be declared eligible? You got to look at his social media posts. The yellow but of that is that people are saying no. I mean, if he fulfills certain objective criteria, like, you know, which the deliberative track and all that, then whatever his social media and all that, we should just leave it to people to decide for themselves. And if you want to raise and raise something about his social media post, like what Ho Ching is saying is do it before the election or nomination, or even just leave it to the posters lah. You know, don't think that anyone else can be authority to guard you from his social media posts. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the yellow but of that is that essentially there is a subjective process in selecting the candidates also. I mean, they fulfill certain criteria, but they can still judge based on the character as well. Right? So it's really inbuilt in the process, some general character judgment.
Actually, I think the process after these few weeks needs to be really relooked at.
Okay.
But I think it is not about looking at social media posts or something.
Yeah.
It's just making it such that we're not unnecessarily disqualifying people who might actually be good.
But we already are, right? By raising like the threshold for private sector from 100 million to 500 million for shareholders' equity.
So that's the kind of thing about a process that I myself don't like. But if you want to say police the social media posts and all that, I'm like, yo man, just cannot lah. Like then where
it's overreach.
It's overreach. And also like if you want to base it just on what you see visibly about them, we just, like last week, there were people who on paper look like these fucking amazingly successful people, but they're all just dirty money.
Yeah.
So you judge someone based on just this sort of superficial stuff. There's so much more to it. Someone could look perfect, post the most amazing LinkedIn and Facebook posts, but they could be an asshole deep down.
Yeah. And today I like Ng Kok Song when they asked him about this, about Tan Kin Lian's social media use. And then Ng Kok Song says, actually, everyone should just post what they think. You should let them be authentic, and then let people judge based on social media, because everyone has access to social media.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't be policed by a small group of people saying that this person not good, not of sound character and all that. But at the end of the day, the voter, you should have the power to decide for yourself by looking at the social media yourself, lah.
Yeah, and that's what Ho Ching also said, right? From the time they announce their nomination, there's a lot of time to highlight it, right? Which can be taken into the process of whether or not it's taken into the process by the elections council, lah. But now that they've qualified him already, they can't revoke it, lah.
Yeah. So I mean, Ho Ching kind of painted it as like we're being whiny.
Oh yeah, that one.
You agree with that?
No lah, I don't think they're being whiny lah.
Then
again, they raise this. They are free to raise this kind of thing, right? But then if you disagree, you disagree. But to say they're whiny, no, I don't know. How do you feel?
I guess what she's taking issue with is issuing big statement
decree,
about it, right? It's almost like that's why someone like Tan Kin Lian will come out and say there's a concerted effort to discredit him, because
she's the wife of the prime minister some more.
But I'm saying what Aware as an institution releasing a statement about him per se, is Aware going to scrub through Ng Kok Song, all his social media statements, and find something also lah,
Yeah.
And then Aware has said that it's only because a TikToker compiled all the clips of his Facebook post, right? But that's where Aware has sort of waded into the presidential election by issuing this general thing, and it can end up galvanizing Tan Kin Lian supporters, right?
Yeah, actually that's
true. There is a real conspiracy against it.
That's true. It is an institution. Is an organization. They issue press release somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That is true. Because you saw that with Trump, right? Whenever this one outlet or something puts a statement, to the hardcore supporters, they're like, oh, it's another person attacking
institution.
It's an
institution. there's a concerted effort by the powers that be
Yeah.
to take down our candidate, you know?
So that's why it's so scary because, like, okay, one thing that we have done in our own lives as content creators is like sometimes our decisions about okay whether or not to pursue this, pursue that project is in some way shaped by what we see in the West.
Mm,
You know, because they tend to be a bit like further down the line in terms of content creation or social media,
Mm.
and we have seen it time and time again that what happens in the West in certain areas will likely happen in the East and Southeast
Yeah.
Asia. lah.
Yeah.
So with this presidential thing and the Trump thing, the way like institutions, I hope they don't go down the path of doing the exact same thing that was done with Trump, with Brexit, and just we see that happen in a small little thing in Singapore as well. lah. And that's why I'm just, man, just like whenever you want to write a headline, like do a title to this, just bear that in mind. And I know people have also called us out for using a specific image of Tan Kin Lian on our thumbnail. lah.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I also felt like, what, like then it becomes subjective already. Then he can do no wrong and other people can do no right. lah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is also a bit worrying. lah.
Yeah. Correct. lah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we haven't even talked about the man in the room, Tharman.
Yeah,
You know.
Tharman.
What are your general thoughts about everything so far around him?
I mean, clean, lah.
Clean, yeah.
Clean, which is good, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I'm a big fan of Tharman over the years. For this election,
And why are you a big fan?
I mean, so that's also a good point.
Yeah.
So this thing about like his conduct, and how he presents himself,
Yeah.
and those certain, you know, speeches you see him give, you know.
Yeah.
But I would totally admit that did not care much about politics when he was at the forefront. You know, Minister of Finance, you know, DPM, and
Well, there was much less coverage also, right? In
No, there
terms
was
of
much less
no live
coverage.
streams and stuff like that.
yeah, and this hit me when I don't know whether we were together or with someone, and someone asked what policies has Tharman put in place,
Yeah.
and then I was like,
Is it the Mandela effect? Like everyone say, "Oh, Tharman's so great, he's so good, he's so good," until
Yeah.
it's just built up over time. You're like, "Yeah, he's so amazing." Then you're like,
but why?
"Why?"
And I couldn't answer.
Yeah.
So there was a big realization for me. I don't know whether you felt the same because I think we were together.
Yeah. No, I mean, the only thing I can really remember of him is that trampoline analogy that he used when talking
Yeah.
about social.
They went viral. lah.
Yeah, they went viral at I think in some global World Economic Forum or what,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
they asked him about social
The safety
safety
net,
net.
yeah,
They
yeah.
said, "Oh no, we don't think of safety net. Think of it as a trampoline."
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Wow."
Well,
what's that?"
whoa.
But then I think about it, I'm like, okay lah, it's an analogy. But other than that, I know little about the actual work that he's done in government and all. Yeah.
So that's the thing. I think everyone listening, or if you are a fan of Tharman, or if you know, I'm not saying that he's not qualified. He's very qualified. He has been validated in so many ways. But then personally, like, why? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. But he could definitely. He's a great statesman.
Yeah, he is.
As a representative, he speaks very well. Seems to be quite spotless in terms of his personal track record, personal scandals and things like that.
Yeah.
Even seemed to be quite a sportsman in his youth, so it's not like he's not like a
Poet.
nerd.
Yeah, poet.
Also quite artistic. So it's like almost like the resume is almost perfect lah. But maybe it's just like now it's like because president represents the people, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we have this desire to really drill down and talk to him about his philosophy behind things lah.
And also because he was a member of the PAP for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. And he is like establishment to the T, right? And he doesn't deny that.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, objectively, would he be a great person to represent Singapore? Yeah. I mean, he's so respected in the international community. Locally, he's so respected. The last GE, his GRC won by the biggest margin.
Yeah.
So it's the CV is like, wow, you come out from A level or like poly or uni application. You know what, this is solid, or your resume lah. It's a solid resume lah.
But then, some people are saying, then we shouldn't vote him for president because that'll be a waste of his talents. He should be out there, heading up IMF or the World Bank or whatever and flying Singapore's flag that way lah.
Yeah.
As opposed to being a custodial or ceremonial figure in Singapore. I mean, people were saying that he could have been PM at one point. But now you're putting him as a figurehead lah, right, of the country, and basically just an ambassadorial role, which doesn't. I mean, is that the best use of his brains? What do you think of that argument?
Oh, but that one a bit tricky because like, I mean, I assume that he himself wanted to run for president, and like, I mean, there's so many people out there who are they doing the best thing they should be doing objectively? I don't know. Have they found their calling? You know, I don't know. I don't know. So many people. Like, how many people actually are really making the best? Not to say we shouldn't aspire to that, but I also feel like, suddenly if he doesn't get elected, then he start a cryptocurrency firm or something. Then like I will buy the coin because it's Taman.
Yeah, Taman coin.
Because Taman, yeah. But I don't know. Do you agree?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of probably a lot of factors why he decided to run for presidency. His argument has been that based on what he's seeing happening around the world, Singapore needs a representative that of his caliber as the president right now. That means someone who can maybe even negotiate better relations and deals with countries and all. Because I think what he's saying is that Singapore is in we're sort of precarious position, stuck between East and West and needing to balance both sides. So we kind of need someone who can talk to everyone, right? And and one impressive thing at the speeches yesterday was that he spoke all 4 languages, like greeting people, right? I don't know if you saw it, but the reporters who were talking to Ng Kok Song and Tan Kin Lian tried to address them in Mandarin, in Chinese. And Ng Kok Song could only manage like a very rehearsed line that sounded very, very stilted. And Tan Kin Lian, for some reason, refused to speak in Mandarin. He refused to like answer the questions in Mandarin. So immediately that also made me like, whoa, like if our president can't even speak his own so-called mother tongue and all that, how can he be out there talking to different heads?
Maybe he didn't want to alienate the non-Chinese speakers.
True, but at the same time, if a Chinese publication comes and asks you a question, and then you can speak the language but you refuse to, it kind of tells me something also, right?
Yeah. But that's why like Taman, he's he's a statesman . So I mean that's why it's interesting because they're all so different. They're all so different. So I mean I don't also believe some people say that this elected presidency is pointless, might as well go back to appointed. I'm like, no lah, then we every time we want something different, when we get this that we all wanted, sure, the process you can disagree the criteria, but it is what we wanted, an elected presidency. So we just make sure that between now and the next time, it gets better the process.
Very early in the process now. So I don't want to go and ask you percentages and all that, but I want to ask you, do you think anyone's going to lose the election deposit?
No.
That means 15%, right?
12.5.
Oh, 12.5. Okay, 12.5%. So Tan Kin Lian, the last election, 2011, he lost his election deposit of $40,000.
So that's in terms of one question that has a binary answer. Right now is no. Who knows? 3 days time might be yes. You?
I don't think he will lose his election deposit.
So as in no one.
No, I think all 3 will get at least 12.5%.
Ooh.
Yeah. So but how that splits down the line, we'll find out. But I'm pretty. The mood is that I don't think Tan Kin Lian 2011 is the same as Tan Kin Lian 2023 Yeah. So, wow, interesting, huh?
Whew.
Because we're seeing a lot of comments like, this guy is for sure going to lose his election deposit. But I would say,
never know.
Just get a feel. Talk to more people outside outside your circle,
and
which I'm trying to do.
Just look at what happened in other countries, right? We say, we are very different from other countries, but I mean, in some way, we're very similar to other countries. So don't, anyone who thinks, he confirm lose. No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. But the president is about unifying people and all that, right?
Yeah.
But recently, something at Suntec City has been unified that has also caused a big rift not a big rift but a lot of debate right, about whether this needs to be unified and what is this thing in Suntec City?
It is a photo that was shared online at Suntec City for an event that was organized there that showed a gender-neutral public toilet.
Yeah.
So I mean, that in the photo also there's a sign that shows the more conventional male, female toilets and an arrow pointing there. But this was a gender-neutral toilet with a subheader that said something along the lines of that this is free to use by anyone who doesn't identify with a particular gender. And then below that was a handicap sign.
Yeah.
So netizens were split
Yeah.
and saying, is Suntec so woke? And there was an online reaction. So basically, it said this restroom may be used by any person regardless of gender identity or expression. So yeah, so that was what was in the news.
Yeah.
And for the context was, it was at Singapore Convention and Exhibition Center at Suntec. It was for a specific event. The event started on Wednesday and will run till Saturday. So it was, the event is Wikimania 2023, and it was the organizers who requested it, not Suntec. It was the organizers. Yeah. So when you saw it, was it what crossed your mind? You're like, oh damn,
The invasion of the woke culture.
the invasion.
No, so yeah, actually, why are people upset about it? Because it seems like, okay, there's a toilet for people who don't identify with both.
Yeah, and
so
I
why
mean,
are people upset? Yeah.
I mean, just for context, Wikimania is an annual conference associated with the Wikimedia Foundation, an American non-profit body best known for the online resource Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So they're all affiliated, and the organization advocates an inclusive approach to some minority groups in society.
Yeah.
And so I mean, even besides the modifications of the toilet, other inclusive measures was making the room scent-free for individuals with sensitivities or allergic reactions, designated staff members and volunteers to help participants, in a quiet room.
Yeah.
So so the gender, so I think why people are pissed is because it is exactly that. They feel there's an invasion of woke culture into Singapore, which hasn't really been the most woke over the years.
Yeah. So and to differentiate, I think people are asking, isn't unlike handicapped toilets now, for example, they are unisex, right? Isn't that essentially the same thing? I think the difference here is that these gender neutral toilets have cubicles, but they have a common sink.
Yeah.
Right. That is used by anyone who wants to use it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas those unisex handicapped toilets usually are one stall by itself with the sink and everything inside also.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also a difference between gender neutral toilets and unisex toilets that have more than one cubicle. Because what I understand, gender neutral toilets is where the cubicles can be used by any gender. Unisex toilets, they share a common sink.
Yeah.
They share a common room, but the cubicles are still designated.
Wait, so you're saying which one is unisex, which one is gender neutral?
Wait,
because what you're saying as unisex, I thought was what gender neutral meant.
Okay, so gender neutral toilets, so this is a definition that is on CNA.
Yeah.
Gender neutral toilets have shared waiting and hand washing facilities along with a number of cubicles.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I take that back.
Flip that around. So unisex is where there's no shared washing facilities.
Yeah, it's
right?
a single standalone facility used by both genders.
Yeah, gender neutral means the cubicles are closed, but the hand washing and other things are shared.
And anyone can use any cubicle.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
I think that's what it means.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I mean, okay, for you, is that an issue?
No. As in for me,
or what did you think?
Not an issue, but the first thing I thought, I did not understand that nuance between gender neutral and unisex. So to me, it's like, then how come they need to call it gender neutral? Why not just term it like unisex, like how a lot of the handicapped toilets are right now, right? But after reading further, then I understand. Okay, it's because there's the potential as you're coming out of the toilet to bump into someone of a different gender, right? While washing your hands and all, which is not as common as it's not as common in Singapore, right? And it might be quite a jarring experience for some people to step out and there's a man zipping up his pants or whatever, walking out the toilet next to me. So I as a guy, to me it's not a big issue, but I can imagine sometimes maybe for a woman it might be a bigger issue. Yeah, but how do you feel about it?
I mean, I was like, at first I thought, this is a Suntec toilet. Because if it's a Suntec toilet, then I feel there's a bit more. I mean, I'm not averse to it at all. In fact, I think if we need to evolve our toilet, sure. But if it was confirmed, it's accepted, then I'm like, what did I miss lah?
You say if it becomes mandated, like all shopping centers need to have a gender
because
neutral.
it still feels like as a society we're still grappling with it.
Yeah.
So when I first saw this title, I was like, oh, Suntec toilets, like they did say temporary designation of Suntec toilets, but I thought it was Suntec the building lah. Which I think would mean a bigger discussion.
Yeah.
But this one, it's an event, and plus the good thing is they didn't say all toilets are gender neutral. There's still male and female, male only, female only.
Yeah.
So like the example you gave, if you feel like, oh, you don't want to come out of your cubicle and see someone who is of the opposite gender or non-binary gender, then you have the choice to not go in lah.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, okay. Of course, there were some people saying, oh, what about safety? You know, someone might just want to go in there because they're perverts and all. But I mean, then I don't know. Then should there be someone standing outside who checks?
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's mandated that the cubicles need to be floor to ceiling to cover all the gaps in between. So to minimize any opportunity for harassment or any other sexual crimes to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing that someone did raise also that was helpful was that it's not just about whether you identify as binary or non-binary or anything, but even the instances with parents with young children, say a dad with a young daughter who needs to bring her to the toilet and things like that. The gender neutral designation does make it less awkward and easier, which I've experienced myself lah. Not myself because my son goes with me, but my son sometimes has to go with his mum, right? And you're bringing a boy into a girl's toilet, and sometimes it's like, okay, how do I? After that, you kind of have the conversation. Oh, okay, there's a ladies' toilet. It's not meant for you to use and all that, right? That's why there's no urinals and things like that. So I can imagine, a gender neutral toilet where it's not. It's just easy to just pull in your kid, and you don't have to worry about genders, and then you feel less awkward lah.
But then if your kid asks you, Papa, how come got boy and girl in the same toilet?
Then you say, because this is a gender neutral toilet.
Then Papa, what is gender?
Okay, then yeah. Then we need to table that for the next big talk about the birds and the bees and all that.
That's why.
But usually they don't ask this kind of. I mean, at least not at that toddler age, right? I think maybe a bit older. But then, there's still the male and female toilets they can go to, right? I'm just saying in those situations, it can be very helpful for young parents with kids.
Yeah, so that's why I think okay, I mean, in some way it is a test, right? To see how people react.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the results. But I wouldn't hold it against Suntec for having this be there at the request of their event.
Yeah.
Event organizer. Of course, if an event organizer asks for 200 different toilets for 200 different genders, then
a bit much.
Then it's okay, then how? But this is gender neutral, which feels like, okay, at this point it feels like okay, it is inclusive.
And if you don't feel comfortable, you can still go to the male and female ones, right?
Yeah. But
no
then
need to shut down the gender neutral.
What would you say to people who say, why can't there just be a handicapped toilet?
No, there is, but the handicapped toilet can only fit one person at a time.
Because this
is a conference we're talking about.
And this was a converted female toilet on the third floor.
Yeah. So, and this conference probably, I mean, a lot of Americans, I would assume, also will attend this conference. And,
and bring with them their culture, is it?
Yeah, they will bring some of their culture with them and all. And you kind of, I mean, they're paying client, right? So they kind of have to accommodate their request. I don't think, and there's nothing mandating that they cannot be gender neutral.
But toilets. I'm sure, no matter how much a client is paying, they can't mandate a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. I don't think, what you said, you can't have 200 genders.
Yeah.
Toilets but for one to be designated gender neutral, I think reasonable, right?
Yeah. So I mean, and even this is a hot topic all over the world. I think in this article they talk about in July last year in the UK, the Guardian newspaper reported that the government was requiring all new offices, schools, hospitals, and entertainment venues to have separate male and female toilets to guard against installation of gender neutral facilities.
Oh, this is in where? In the UK?
UK.
I see.
Yeah, so that's where it's whoa, that feels like a huge ass discussion on the national level, right? I'm sure we'll get there at some point.
Yeah.
But at this point, in some ways, it's interesting to experiment and see how people react.
Yeah. It's should we allow businesses to hang pride flags around the establishment, things like that? Right? That kind of discussion. Yeah. Which has caused people to get very angry also, surprisingly. But yeah, it's wow. How we need someone to unify everyone. That's what we are voting for this time, you know.
So imagine like if we were confronted with this issue, who amongst the three would do the best job? I mean, again, like president is, I know, I think they can't comment freely on everything. But I mean, you look at Halima, you look at
calm nerves down.
you look at Halima. I think to her credit, there were certain times she kind of shared her thoughts, which did kind of like help. Like okay, at least you know that the president is making a stand or saying something lah.
And that they could be quietly influencing lah, right, behind closed doors lah. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
difficult situation. But
interesting.
Yeah. And just talking about happier things, what is your one shot comment? And we've had a lot of comments in the last week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I mean, just there's so many, but I'll just highlight one, like Busy Feature 9012, which was on the podcast we did with Tan Kin Lian on Reddit. And they basically wrote, "Thanks for doing this podcast. I really wanted to get to know him beyond his social media posts. You guys ask great questions which reveal more about him than I've seen anywhere else.
Yeah.
His heart is in the right place, but they totally lack self-awareness and that they still enjoyed the podcast and it was a really entertaining podcast, and also that they're going to watch the YouTube version just to see my expressions.
Yeah.
But I think less about the second half. The first half is what I'm quite proud of, in the sense that people feel we were asking questions that they didn't hear being asked elsewhere, which is what we strive to do.
Yeah. And to jump on the bandwagon of patting ourselves on the back, right? An ex-president of Singapore has risen from the grave to leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Yusof Ishak 1965.
Oh, yes, correct. I was like, what?
Yusof Ishak 1965 says, "I'm not a fan of Mr. Tan Kin Lian and feel that he should not even be allowed to run for office. But kudos to Yalabat for getting Tan on the podcast and letting him share his thoughts and beliefs freely. I listened to this episode with an open mind and open heart. I'm still not impressed with Mr. Tan, but I definitely enjoyed this episode, especially the questions asked. Thank you, Harsh and Terence." You see, this is the kind of spirit that I really hope people take, right? That you might disagree with the person, and you feel that he's he shouldn't be president and all that, but you come in and you sort of give him a chance, right? And try and engage him with real questions rather than asking him about memes and things like that, right? Pretty girls and all. So yeah, I'm glad that we had a chance and we got a chance to do that public service for everyone also.
Yeah. So I mean, still gunning to get Tharman on at some point.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
If he has got respect for us.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He got respect for all, but but not so sure. But yeah. Wow. And what is your one shook thing?
My one shook thing is a video by MKBHD, Marcus Brownlee, the huge YouTube tech tuber. Guys does reviews of tech products on YouTube. But he recently did a video about how 3D printing changed this dog's life. And it's essentially about a 3D printing company that I think let me just get the name correct. It uses iPhones to scan, fit, and 3D print prosthetics of pets of all shapes and sizes. It's called 3D Pets.
Wow.
So like, dogs with like 3 legs and all, they can actually use your phone and scan the dog's like body frame, and then after that they can help to print prosthetics for the dog. So his video was really just about the journey of one dog and how they helped it get used to and print this new 3D prosthetic to enhance its life. And I really like this video because obviously he's a huge YouTuber. And people, he has multiple videos about every iPhone release or every Android release and all. But a video like this just showing how people use technology to just do little things to make the world around him better. And the fact that he's doing a video to highlight it, right? It might not be the most viewed video he has, but at least he's using it to do something, showcase something interesting and something good. It isn't just about how many cameras the iPhone Pro Max 15 has and all that.
And it's tech for good.
Yeah, tech for good. And we rarely see that on these kind of tech tuber channels. There's always a review of the latest laptop or game or anything like that, So yeah.
Interesting. It just came out, is it?
Yeah, 12 hours
and
ago.
he has a dog also, right?
I don't know, man. He has a lot of things. He's got
has a lot of
Tesla,
things,
he's got Ferrari.
He got a lot of things. Yeah. He got a lot of things.
So yeah,
Got
to
us-
feature just this thing
he got a
about
lot of
dog
things,
is great. Yeah.
Cool. Mine is a YouTube channel that I've seen this guy appear on TikTok and all before, but I finally followed his YouTube channel. He's called James Smith.
Okay.
He's a British kind of like personal trainer / fitness trainer kind of thing. And I love it because he's more like, he takes a very no nonsense approach to fitness and health. And just the one video that I saw pop up recently was where he was talking about how Prime, which is the drink by Logan Paul and KSI, is really just falsely marketing a lot of its benefits and it's actually not the best for you. And he goes down to the science of it. I don't think he's as scientific as someone like Andrew Huberman, but he's quite funny. He's fit as hell. And I just like his approach to talking about fitness. Like, it's not so dogmatic, like, don't eat this, eat all this. It's just, okay, these things are good for you.
Yeah.
Don't, like, if you put on weight on Christmas, it's not a big thing. If you don't put on weight on Christmas, that's a sin. Right, through Christmas. So just the way he talks, and he's quite funny also.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's
Prime
cool,
Prime is getting big, huh? Like
It's huge,
it's in
man.
Singapore now and everything
Oh,
also.
it's in Singapore already?
Yeah, you can buy it in Singapore already.
Fuck, man. But you watch his video, he explains just like the potassium and sodium count, why it's actually not good for you, and why it's just marketed very well. So he's cool.
Wow.
Sweet,
All right.
man.
Cool. So
All right.
there'll probably be more about the presidential election coming up in the next 1-2 weeks.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.